Hi everybody, this is Donna at Scrapbook Sage. I'm going to share with you today how to bind a journal. I've had a request as I've been participating in Calvin Ball 2020 to show them how to bind the journals I've been making. I've been doing it a little bit. I still struggle a little bit with binding them, but I'm happy to go ahead and show you my process. There are plenty other artists out there. Lindsay Zenner does a fabulous job at showing people how to bind journals. I'm doing a smaller one signature journal, and I'm only doing one. Since I'm doing one signature, I'm not going to make a spine. I'm just folding over some cardboard with these journals that I'm working on. But I wanted to show you my process and give you guys an opportunity to see how it's done. So once again, I wanted to encourage you to go ahead over to Calvin Ball 2020 and Scrap Happy. Feel free to join us as we're having a lot of fun competing for the highest points and get points for different things that you put on your pages. I have two journals here that I completed a couple days ago. I completed the covers today, and I will go ahead and bind both those books, and I will also show you two ways that you can get your books set up for binding. So with that said, I have the tools here that I would use. The two journals that I will be binding today are this one. This is the cover, and this is the setup, the signature that I set up before I made the cover. And the second one is this one. And again, I selected some pages and got them set up before I made the cover. And so I finished the signatures, the insides of the book, a couple days ago, and that helped me get some points for Calvin Ball. And I will do a flip through of those as well. But I also wanted to show you sort of my process of how to get those signatures together. And what I usually do is I get paper. I like to copy down my paper or get aged looking paper. I've got a couple pieces here from a book that I've torn out. This is paper that I dyed. It was coffee dyed, and I just bake them in my oven when I coffee dye them. Here is a book from a plant book, and here is some letters. I call these my blank pages because they really are the blank canvas for your journal. So these are the pages that you would normally glue things onto or write in, but you can do your journaling in. You can decorate and do art on it any way that you would like to do it. So I get together a group of blank pages, and then I also get my printed pages. Now I've been using Lindsay Zenner for most of my digitals at this time. I do go to other artists, but what I have mostly here is Lindsay Zenner and a lot of Maggie Holmes. So some of the prints that I printed up, I think it's Her Ethel's Farm, but it could be, it looks like there's a few different types of kits that I have here. She's got a baking kit, and I'm not quite sure the other one. It might just be those two. But I'm just going to put together the signature. I'm not going to do anything more with the signature that I put together. I'm mainly using it as a demonstration for you. So I grab a page that I really like, and I print it on two sides. Sometimes I will cut down my scrapbook paper and print this on the white side, and I'll have my scrapbook paper on the other side. In this case, I double-sided the digital prints. So as I'm looking at this, I think I'm looking at which side I want to be the cover. I'll go ahead and turn this over and fold it this way so that this will be the first page that is seen. So go through your pages. You can go ahead and fold them beforehand. I tend to do that just for storage. I'll print up some things that I know I'm going to be putting in a book, and then I will fold them up, and when I get to it, I'll put them together just like I'm doing now. So, and then I grab the blank page, And I'm looking here, I like how that purple plays off of that purple. I will go ahead and keep that the way that is. And then there is some plants on this, and it's sort of nature themed, so I'll go ahead and grab this. And then I just alternate pages. Sometimes I'll have two of my blank pages next to each other, depending on what they are. And then layer in another printed page. So as you can see, this process is pretty simple. You can choose what works the best for you. And then sometimes this is the point that people would go ahead and bind the book after they picked out all the pages that work for them. They would go ahead and bind the book before doing the embellishments. There's some pros and there's some cons to that. So the pro to it is you have a much thinner book to work with as you're binding, and it's a quicker process. Everything is together as you're working, as you're filling things in. The negative is if I wanted to have a flip out, or if I wanted to add special things, sometimes it's nicer to do it ahead of time before you bind it, or if you want to stamp inside of the book, or you want to do some work inside of the signature, then you may want to consider waiting to bind it until you're done. I have done it both ways, and sometimes it just depends what type of mood I'm in as I'm working in it. So sometimes I like to build it up to see how thick it is, and that helps me decide if I'm going to have one or two signatures as well. As I'm looking at these papers, I'm sort of really liking this, and since it's close to Easter, I'm going to go ahead and put that in the front. And so you can decide where you want things to be. I like this, the way this is too, and I might have this be the center signature, although I like that as well. Let me see. I don't want to spend too much time on this since I'm just using it as an example. And so usually you do between 10 and 15 pages. 15 pages is almost getting too thick. You're not going to be able to put a lot of embellishments in it without it straining the covers that I'm going to be showing you today. The flip side of that is, however, some people just like to do the journaling, and they don't necessarily want all the embellishments in it. So depending on who you are making this for, you might want to just I'm going to be making a journal for a family member who she wants more journaling than embellishments, or she's going to want half and half. So I might do 12 pages instead of just 10 and not embellish it so much. So this is pretty much how I would do the signature. And let me see what I have here. I have an envelope here that I'm not going to put in it, but I'll show you why I may want to wait to do the signature until after the fact. So I've got this envelope, and it's not a true envelope, but it works. And I might want to take this and put it in here. Let me make sure I show it to you the right way. I might want to take this envelope after I've glued it down. I'm just doing a rough example at this point. And make a flip out. So I might want to sew this in, and so when you open it up, you have a hidden writing space. So this is a faux envelope, but that's sort of the idea. If you want to add more to your journal, have hidden flip outs, that's a good way to do it. And maybe a better way to show that would be, let's say, I hope this is showing well. let's say I want to make this a flip out. I just glue this down here, or I make it a hidden pocket. So I glue the side there and I glue the side there. I punch a hole here, and that can be a hidden pocket, and this can fold over. So you can do different things like that, and it's easier to do things before you sew in the signature. So that is, you can choose when you want to do the sewing. And then you can grab a cover and put it in the cover. This is not the right size of a cover. I had cut it too short. But if this were a cover, I had folded up, like, see, I made a mistake. I folded it too thick. So if I folded it a little bit shorter, I would have had a pocket and folded it over like this, and I'm good to go. If I were going to make this the cover. But usually I will layer up 2 pieces of cardstock, or better yet, is to layer up cardstock and fabric, or wallpaper and cardstock, or wallpaper and fabric. So, and I will show you that I've done that on the other covers, but generally that's how I get things ready before I sew things. I'm going to set this over to the side, and I will pull one of the books and what I'm talking about. So this is the cover, and it is I use 2 pieces of cardstock from scrapbook paper, the front and back cardstock of a pad of scrapbook paper. I glued those together. Then I glued a piece of paper from Maggie Holmes, and then I glued on wallpaper. And I ended up cutting this a little bit short, so I just made some extensions on it. I might want to sew these on so they're a little bit more secure, but it's feeling pretty secure now. And the way that it feels, I can feel that there's a little bit, it's a little bit thinner right here than it is there. But in the book, it's still 2 layers. It's still 2 layers thick, and it's fine. I'm okay with that. So there, you can always fix something. The one thing that's nice about junk journals, I'm noticing, like, I have some white here, and I can go ahead and take my black ink. And that's another thing too, is I like to, before I sew everything in, I sort of like to look at everything and make sure that it's looking the way I want it to look, so I have the flexibility to make it look a little bit nicer, or just add an extra layer. And that's what I'm doing with the ink here. And I don't have to worry about cutting that off. And that little extra layer of ink really makes it looking a little bit more antique. And I'm just doing it a really simple way right here now. Okay. So with that said, I may just go ahead and bind one of these. If I don't make any mistakes, that will make me a little bit happier. So I'm going to wait to do that in just a minute. But I showed you that cover. I'll go ahead and flip through this one, and you can see what I did and how I work with it as I'm adding embellishments. So this is a scrapbook paper, this is a digital. So I made sure I printed the digital the right way in the computer. You could see that that's just the side there. So I put everything together like I just showed you. And then I start getting my embellishments and adding them as I went to. And we're doing Calvin Ball, so that you get different points for different things. So we were getting points for stars and green and yellow and wood. So I was picking things that worked for that, and it sort of made me embellish maybe a little bit more deeper than I normally would, or look for things that a little bit outside of my scope for a theme that I'm working in. So you'll see, like, I may not have normally put foiled stars on here, but I did today, and there's gold embellishments there. So I put a blue paper clip here because I got points for that. So it's been fun to see how, if you layer up the colors, like normally I would probably just leave this page the yellow or the green and the pink and not add the blue. But I got points for the blue lace, and then I added the blue flower. So you can see as you layer things up, it just adds more dimension to the journal. We also got points for circles, and I made it into a tab. And we got points for purple, so I put purple on that side, and sparkle and glitter. So gold foil, a hexagon, some stitching and music. So you have hidden pockets there. So I've done that throughout the book. This was just a normal piece of scrapbook paper. I put the paper clip on it and some tickets. This was a fussy cut. This is sort of a label. I've been using my offcuts and making extra hearts and circles just to show you the process a little bit. When you're making a journal, you can make pockets, and you can make them top-loading pockets, or you can make them side-loading pockets. I made this a side-loading pocket, and I added some washi here. I left on the end strip so it gave a little bit more dimension. I put some washi here, and then you want to rotate the lower pockets and the higher pockets so that your book lays pretty flat. Otherwise, this would be really bulky and this wouldn't be. So as you're making a journal, you want to consider that as well. And you want to sort of have 3 points of vision that will draw you across the page, or 5, you know, just sort of the rules of ours. I don't know if I always do that. But I noticed that on that page, and that's helpful if you're looking for some design ideas. Here's a little butterfly with a heart and a digital stamp there, and there's a peacock bird there. And this was nice because it was an ombre effect, and it had the blues and the purples and pinks in it. So that was fun to use. And normally you wouldn't use these tools together, or you might, but it doesn't look like any of these would go together, but in this theme, it works really well, this sort of garden theme. And I layered washi there. This is an old book page. This is one of Lindsay Zenner's kits, Farmhouse Daisies. Doilies were getting points from that. So you see how I used, instead of just a white piece of paper or a coffee dyed paper, I used colored paper, and that brought another color dimension to the book. So I don't have a lot of coffee dyed paper in here, but I used the colored paper in place of that. I did some fun whimsical things. I did some formal modern things. There's not a lot of vintage in this one. There's a little bit, but not a lot. I like mixing it up. Some people like to keep them all the same. This was this dog was cute. One of Lindsay Zenner's new prints, puppies, purple and puppies, or something like that. But it was a miscut. But with the line here, it works just fine for the belly band, and it sort of was cute with the purples and all that stuff. So, anyways, this is the journal itself before I bind it. And it is starting to get a little bit difficult to handle. You can see how it's easier to bind it and then add everything. So, but if I wanted a smaller page in here, or I want to put a doily in here before we finish things up, I have that option to do. So, and that way I can sew things in. I don't know if I'm going to do that. But, and look, and this is just student lined paper, and that also gives an effect that is nice. This is an old magazine page. I'm using Project Life cards. And an old book page, more Project Life. There's the doily that I just glued on. We're getting points for sunglasses. So that is how I created the signature for this book. And so I get the signature, I get my cover, and for me, it's sort of a catch-22. I like everything done before I bind it. But if you make a mistake, then you've done all that work and you're like, oh no, I made a mistake. So this is sort of where I hold my breath and I try not to get too exasperated. Try is the key word there. But anyways, so I will go ahead and bind this. I'm taking these 4 big binder clips. See, this is starting to get really thick. And sometimes what I'll do is take out the embellishments and put them back in, because as you can see, they may be difficult to keep everything centered and work well together since it is getting so thick. And it can impact how things line up, and you might have it a little bit cockeyed, which is not always awful. It's okay because it's a junk journal, but if you're a perfectionist, you're just going to want to make sure that everything is lined up really, really well. And what I'm struggling with, and I think I'm going to, this is a puffy sticker, and I think that's causing me some issues there. But let me go ahead and put this back together. I have the cover about 1/2 inch thicker than the signature. And that is good because it protects it. But it makes using binder clips like this a little bit of a challenge. You can get stronger binder clips. I just don't think I have any in the house. I don't have any right now. And these have been working pretty well for me, especially with these smaller books. And like I said, this is a pretty thick signature. It's probably closer to 15 pages, and it's heavily embellished. So you can see how that is going to give me a little bit of a challenge. It's not impossible. It's just going to give you a little bit of a challenge. So, and I like to lay it down flat, and I take my template and I set this in here, and I just go for it, especially if I'm doing one signature and I don't have to line it up with other things. I just double check to see that I have it in the center. I'm looking here. I'm pretty good in the center here. I'm pretty good. I fold it over. Yeah. And then I'm centered here and I'm centered here pretty much. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and stand up. You'll see me do that. I'm sorry, my table's going to rock a little bit. It's a little bit unstable. And I hope I am in screen well. And I just take an awl. This is a nice awl to use because it has a rounded handle. And I've got a book that's protecting my table and my mat. And I'm going to push down. And I do make my holes maybe a little bit bigger than they should be made. I just need that little bit of extra for myself. Okay, and then I just set that aside. I've already threaded my needle. And what I do with the thread, I've got this wax thread here that I've used. I make it the length 3 times of the book. So, and look, see, I'm off a little bit, but that's okay. It's not going to be a problem. If you're a perfectionist, you'll have to work with that a little bit. I just know what my skills are right now, and I don't fuss too much. It looks pretty good back here, and the inking will. I may have wanted to do a black one because I use that black ink, but that's okay. And then I go, so you want to go down, up, down, back up, and tie it. So that's what I'm going to do. You could see my paper clips are coming off, but if it did hold it together pretty well. Something that I did earlier in another journal is I just sewed it in my sewing machine. If you're not embellishing it and you're only doing 10 pages and you're not using really thick scrapbook paper and you haven't done pockets, I don't want to pull the wrong one through. You could probably get away with doing that. So I want to make sure I'm not pulling. I want to keep one of these in for sure. So I'm holding on to one here and I'm making it tight. And I'm going to put this up, but I'm going to make sure this holds on to it just because it's going to be easier if I can keep them together. So if you have a clamping binder clip, that will work a little bit better. And again, I'm trying to stay in screen. Thanks for your patience as I'm learning all these fun skills. They're great skills to learn. And that's one thing about life is we all get to learn together. And you'll probably learn more from my mistakes. My binder clips do pop out and jump across the table like that. But they do seem to have worked for me just fine, making sure I didn't lose my thread and my needle because sometimes I can do that. So I'm pulling this through and making sure that it's tight there. And I'm pulling it so it's tight here. And let's see if I can find the hole that I made. This third hole sometimes is a little bit of a challenge. And that worked out pretty well. Sometimes I will thread it through just the cover first and then the signature. I'm going to give myself some more thread here so that it will dangle a little bit. They're about even in the dangle. I'm going to pull off the needle. And this isn't perfect, but I'm okay with it. It will be fine. And then you'll just want to double knot it. And you are good to go. Make sure that everything's pulled tight. I have a challenge with this. Sometimes I will ask my husband to help me out as I tie the knot. One thing that I will do is put this awl here and tie it around the awl if he's not available. And that sort of helps me keep things tight. This is the toughest part of making journals for me, is this process right here. I've got chubby hands and it's not easy. Hey, babe, do you mind coming and letting me use your finger? And so anyways, I'm going to let him help me because that will be faster for all of us. And he's sweet to help out. It's one nice thing about the being home together is I got my husband to help me out with my little tasks. Okay, and we are good to go. That is tight enough. I can pull off my clips. And there, let's see how loose that is. It's not loose at all. So that's the one thing, is you don't want to have a loose signature. I will, if it's too loose, I will untie it and do it again. I will add beads to this later. I'm not going to do it now, and I don't think I'm going to show you how to bind it again, just because it's not my favorite process. But I will go ahead and flip through this other journal for you guys, because that's so much more fun. I loved how this cover came out. This is from Lindsay Zenner's Boho Girls with her vintage line. Really, really cute. And we all love Maggie Holmes, and I love the bunny. I've been wanting to do a lemon journal for quite a while, and about a month ago, Lindsay Zenner came out with a Luscious Lemon. I'm like, oh yes, I can use that Maggie Holmes paper. So that's what I did. I made a pocket on top here, and I also made a little pocket. I don't know if I made it, if I have something here small enough, on the side here. I may have glued it down too much, but just those are, I did glue it too much, so I really don't have a pocket there. but those are some things that you can do in your journals. You can have like hidden pockets, and those are always a lot of fun. This I just got from the Dollar Tree. These are not, these are cut out buttons from a book. I put some washi here, and I just layered things up. So I also received, I used wallpaper again. I will probably put a pocket here and maybe in the other book too. See, when I was doing the book, I was thinking these were going to be the covers, but I cut them too short. So I didn't put the wallpaper, or I went ahead and printed it, and I didn't want to cover up this pretty paper. It's like, oh, I didn't plan that well. So I just made a different cover. But I love the way that this looks too. This is so pretty with the lemon and the flowers in the background. This is really a pretty album. It's a fun one. And then look at this lovely digital kit that Lindsay made with the flowers and the lemons. And she has purples on some pages and greens and pinks on other pages. It is just stunning. It's been so much fun to work with. So I didn't print on the back side, so I just cut out some gingham paper. Gingham was one of the things that we were getting points for anyways. Got some hidden pockets here. We were getting points for pies. Got a hidden pocket here. This is some writing space for somebody. A lot of people like writing cards that are thicker. And I don't always do that because the books get so chunky. It's nice. I don't like having super chunky books, but I can understand how customers and people might like the thicker cards. Like this is a thicker card. So it's nice to have different weights in the book to see what people like. I leave the lightweight things too in case people want to cut this out and glue it onto here and add their own artistic flair to the book wherever they would like to do that. So again, another Lindsay Zinner print. You can go to Nevermore Creation 17 and look at her digital prints. They are just really fun. I have several throughout this book of hers. And I've got raspberry and lemon washi there, thinking of lemonade. So this is probably one of my favorite ones most recently. I don't know if I can say that. I like I get bored easily, so it's nice to have different themes, and I just tend to love whatever I'm working on at that time. So as I was putting together that book that I just showed you guys, I was like, oh, this is going to be fun to work in. So I have a plan for that one. I just need to get to it. So, and when I do have I showed you guys my haul of those old books in a previous video. You're welcome to go ahead and check that out. It's called, it's a haul. It's in the State Hall. But I do go through my books, and if I'm doing a lemon theme, I will look for the word lemon in my garden books. I did a book for work, and we are Plane Tree certified. And so I found the tree that said Plane Tree and put that in the album. So you don't have to be that literal. I just am. And so it's fun when you can add those extra pieces, like here, extra pieces here that probably should have a paper clip. And I will just double check. When I bind that, I will double check all that before I do. But anyways, these books were a lot of fun to work on. And this lace is really pretty, the new kits. And so this is the flip through of that second book. And they all are just a lot of fun. They are a lot of fun. So if you like this video and you'd like to see more, go ahead and push the subscribe button and like it. And I will hopefully be getting some of these up for sale, at least on my Facebook page for now. I haven't opened up an Etsy shop, but if there's anything that you see, go ahead and go over to Scrapbook Sage and Facebook. And if you feel free to ask about a journal, and you'll see journals that are available listed there as well. So thanks for joining me, and I'm having a lot of fun being able to do this with you guys. I know this couple weeks are going to be pretty crazy. I hope to bring you a little bit more content in the next few days of some other books that I'm working on, and some more either craft with me or showing you some pages that I'm doing in my own journal. You guys have a great rest of the week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.